Rangers Journal Night.
Hello and welcome everyone to your pre-match podcast for Rangers away game at Easter Road to Hibs today. I'm joined to have this little discussion with Billy, my namesake. How are you, mate?
Good. Yep. Happy to be here.
How's the weather where you are? Because it's pretty nice here.
Grizzly, actually, yeah. Sweden's kind of grey and sitting about sort of 12 degrees. I mean, it's getting up a wee bit, but this week it's going to be like 10 degrees and stuff like that. So I'm actually looking wistfully at the weather back home and thinking it looks like the Costa del Sol by comparison.
Well, it certainly put me off going for an early spring holiday before the school holidays all kick in, because the weather's actually been pretty nice. But we're not here to talk about the weather, for goodness sake. We're here to talk about the game today. Billy, last game of the season. Are you feeling like me that it couldn't come quick enough?
I mean, it's one of those things. Is it going to be a sort of turgid plod? Is it going to be sort of fireworks and like everyone just cuts loose? That's the joy of Eurovision. Unfortunately, we've got to wait about 10 hours for that and watch a Rangers game first. So I'm not sure what to expect today. I'm actually kind of hoping for a decent game, because I think Hibs have got third zone up, so they could have come into today under a lot of pressure and actually might be D-mob happy. They might be coming in going, right, we've done well with our season. We're at home in front of our fans. If I was Hibs, I'd be having a right go at us today. I just hope that if that's the case, enough of our players are actually thinking about their future next season that we make a decent fist of it. So maybe it's like hope over experience, but I'm hoping for a decent game today.
Now, I know we've had a fair amount of rebuilds the last couple of years, but I wanted to cast your mind back to the final game of the season. What was it, 2019, something like that? I just can't remember. 5-5 Easter Road game. It was just before Steven Gerrard came in and started the Gerrard revolution. Sorry, the COVID ruins everything with regards to how many years ago things were. So, cast your mind back to that game. Are you hoping for a game like that today? I think I could deal with that.
I mean, knowing that there's no Neil Lennon to run on the pitch doing that embarrassing aeroplane nonsense, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And it's funny because that game did actually kind of like spring to mind when I was thinking about how today might go. And it also like brought to mind that, I don't know if it was McAllister or Gerrard, it said after that game, he hadn't seen the game yet, but he said he looked at the score and it wasn't difficult to see what the issues were.
McAllister, I think. Yeah,
it was McAllister going, if you're shipping 5 goals. And that's a wee bit of a concern. The goal we shipped against Dundee United, with Suter caught under the ball again, does make me wonder if we'll be able to keep a clean sheet today. Probably not, but yeah, a wee bit of that. To be honest, there is nothing to play for. If I'm going to spend like a couple of hours watching this, I'd quite like to be entertained. That would be kind of minimum.
One thing that came up, I guess it was a few weeks ago now, but there was a very, very small outside chance that Hibs could actually catch us for second place at one point into the split, I believe. And I looked at this fixture and thought, oh, please don't make it come down to finishing second in the last. Like it did that same day, actually. I think Aberdeen won. I think they won at Parkhead for some reason and got second place. But let's have a look at the team. We've beaten around the bush a wee bit enough already, Billy. So Butland in goals. Surprised at that? Are you happy enough that he keeps his place from the other night?
I mean, it sounded like they brought him in because Liam Kelly maybe had a niggle. Was that my understanding of
That's
it?
What Barry said. I don't know if I believe them.
There is that. I mean, I think actually this falls under the category of reasonably savvy management by Barry, because he had to be dropped. He was thrown one in pretty much every game, and it was as much for his protection actually as for the team's good. I think giving him a bit of time out, the spotlight's off him. He looks like he's played his way back into a wee bit of form. I thought he was good against Dundee United. Made some good saves. Wasn't at fault for the goal, and in my opinion, anyway. And I think you bring him back in for a couple of games, you're kind of rebuilding him for next season and putting him in the shop window maybe a little bit. So another decent game today. I'm happy that he's in. Whether he's here next season or not, it's a conversation for another day. But I'm happy to see him back in, especially playing the way he did against United.
Yeah, fair dues. And let's look. Are we assuming this is a back four with Casemiro at left back, with Tav, Sutton, Balogun, Casemiro, and obviously Casemiro being involved is not, I wouldn't say a shock at this stage of the season, but a surprise at least.
And it sort of says good things about the guy's powers of physical recovery and about his motivation. And it was one of those things where when he came into the team earlier in the season, he looked good. He looked a wee bit raw, and he looked like he was making mistakes. And I think back to the kind of chance he missed against Malmo. But there was also a bit of me thinking when I saw that, he's in a position to try and score against Malmo. He's not lacking confidence. He's got the technical background you'd expect coming from Dutch football. And I'm not saying he reminded me of Calvin Bassey in terms of the player, etc. But that sort of the way he'd come in and was starting to develop, I think was getting a few of us quite excited, because he didn't come in like a lot of, and this is a different discussion, but a lot of the youth team players that have come through our system, they kind of come into the team and look like they're kind of happy to hold the place, not do anything wrong, play themselves in, and kind of not make a mistake. I was very impressed, and I think a lot of us were keen to see if he could go on, carry on that trajectory and actually be holding down a first team place. Then he gets the injury. And I think it says a lot about the guy's mentality and physicality, that where a lot of players would have just written the season off, especially when you're on loan at another club, gone back to your parent club, or just tried to kind of be in good nick for next season. He's clearly pushed it to get back and be playing before the end of the season. So I'm delighted to see him back in. I hope he stays here next season and we have an option, heavily emphasised option, rather than an obligation to buy, depending on how next season goes.
Yeah, we don't know the plans, I guess, but that would be my hope, that he's came back in, got himself fit with the understanding he'll come back and try again next season, for try the loan again next season, then we can see where we go with him. Moving on to midfield, not really too much of a surprise, barring Diamande and Raskin. I guess the other surprise in the team is Danilo getting his first start for a while.
Yeah, and no sign of Igaman. Has he got an injury? Is that
no idea? No, I've not heard anything.
I'm presuming it might be something like that, or maybe they've just had a look at him and decided that he's had a fairly full season for his first full season in European football, and decided to just give him the week off. But Danilo, people have been calling out for it. I think Dino the other night, I was on the pod and he was suggesting that Danilo, playing the minutes Dessers gets, would have scored more goals than Dessers, which I'm not sure I would agree with, because I don't think Danilo would necessarily get the same positions, but it's a chance for him to show what he can do. And he's one of these guys where he hasn't really done it at Rangers, but you kind of feel sorry for him, because a lot of it is circumstances. He had that horrible face knock, and that was scoring a goal and showing bravery, but he hasn't had much of a run. My suspicion would be we might look to move him on in the summer, but I'm happy to see him in, see what he can do. Barry hasn't seemed that keen to put him in when the matches have mattered. So, when he was trying to get the non-winning streak at Ibrox off his back, he was relying on Dessers and Igaman. This is a game that doesn't really do anything, so he's brought him in, he's given him a chance. I'd like to see him get in the score sheet. I'm not sure he's got a long-term future, to be honest. And it's a funny one, because if he moves on, he's never really done anything at Rangers, but I think he would still go with people's best wishes. So hopefully he gets in the score sheet today.
I don't disagree, probably because of those injuries, and especially the facial fracture, which was awful to see. So I guess I understand what you're saying. If we had to lose him and Dessers, I wouldn't be too dramatically upset about either, if we can recoup some of that money and maybe put it into a type of player that's maybe... I said yesterday on the news show that a player that's scoring that amount of goals that Dessers does hasn't been a problem the last couple of seasons. It's really everywhere else. So unfair maybe on me to say that about Dessers, and he does get his start today. He is the top scorer in the league. At the end of the day, that's a meaningless stat really for us, because we've not won anything this season. But it would be nice to get something because a nice guy. So if he gets the top goal scorer, the golden boot, especially over the other candidate or the other two candidates that are in the possible frame for it, that would be nice for him.
Exactly. No, I couldn't agree more because we are petty, of course we are. Like I said, it's a football rivalry, but it would be nice to see him get top scorer. He is actually a really nice guy. If you were getting rid of like Dessers, you're shipping 25 goals a season, and it is one of we can talk about what he does in big moments in big games, but that is a lot of goals. And it's not, I was talking the other night about this, it's not that we haven't had strikers that score that number of goals, but in all honesty, the last 20 years or so, we haven't had many that have done that. So you have to think really carefully. And also, yes, he is erratic, but he can score at every level. He's he's not like Chris Boyd where, he'll kind of like steamroller SPFL sides, but he's not much use in a Celtic game or doesn't get the trust in European game. He can score big goals in Europe. He can score in Scottish football. If he was more consistent, he'd be in a top 5 league. He would be nowhere near Scotland if you could ally consistency to that sort of ability. So and the other thing I often wonder, I hear people talk about the chances he misses and I think you just have to look at he misses big chances, but you have to look at it and say, would Danilo get those goals? Would he be in the same chances? Because a lot of the chances Dessers gets, he gets because he keeps running. He makes the opportunity. He'll kind of put himself in the right position. Maybe another striker would do that. Maybe not. But it's Scotland, so that level of striker. Are they coming here? I'm not so sure. So yeah, Big Cyril. I really hope. I'd like to see him. Get a couple today. And is Maeda one behind? Is that the kind of the start?
I believe so. So. I've not looked that up actually, but I think.
Celtic will probably be thinking the same. So that maybe adds a wee bit of spice and it'd be nice to see Cyril get that because I think it's 50-50 whether he's here next season. Well, what I would say is if whoever the new manager is coming in, I'm kind of like with you, I would be looking going, if I've got a list of like problems I need to address, the 50 goal in 2 season striker is not at the top of the list. It's other stuff I'm looking at first.
And a brief mention to the subs, it doesn't fill me with any great excitement to see any of these players really coming on. You've got Kelly, obviously, his backup, Robin Proper, Cortez, Lawrence, Enciala's there, McCausland's there, Rice and Curtis, and McCallian's there. We'd like to see any time for the younger players. That's where I'm kind of at with that. I don't really care about any of the other ones coming on.
I mean, you could, but at this stage, I would have to say I think it's more of that'd be a box ticking exercise. I'm not privy to what's happening in training or the development of the young players. But it was one of the things when Barry came in, people were hoping that he was going to bring in the likes of Curtis and Rice, and you might see more of McCausland and Enciala. I think when you see manager after manager come into the club and look at the youth team or you look at the development team and not pick those guys, it's for a reason. I quite like the look at Enciala. I'm not sure I know whether he can defend or not yet. I know he looks like a good modern centre forward in the making going forward. He can play a pass and he's good coming forward with the ball. I sometimes wonder where he is when we're under pressure. Bailey Rice has looked decent when he's come in. He hasn't done much wrong. Like McCausland seems to have faded out the picture, and Finlay Curtis, if there was a time to play him, it would have been the end of the season. Sadly, I think Barry's kind of fallen prey to what a few managers have now, which is, I think in an ideal world, Barry comes in, he wins all these games, he bloods the new players, and he's in the running for the job. But the reality is he's come in to a flaky squad who play some weeks, don't play other weeks. I think he's done all right. I think, he hasn't set the heather alight, but he's got some big wins, Barry. And it could have been a car crash. The players could have switched off and not played for him after Philippe Clement went. But I think
we would have been surprised.
No, exactly. So I think it's big credit to Barry. I think he may have got the best out of them, but he's actually found himself in that position where in the last month he's been trying to get the win at Ibrox, and he's done what other managers do. He's looked and gone, not what's the long-term picture, and can we turn Finlay Curtis into a first-team regular? He's gone, oh crap, who's going to get me a win this weekend? And he's picked the best 11, and that hasn't been the youth team players. So ideally, he would have been in a better position to play them last 2 or 3 games, but I think it's telling that he hasn't. Mm-hmm. If we play them today, nice, but 45 minutes for Finlay Curtis, what's that going to do to his future, next season with a new manager and new structure in place? I'm not sure. But I think it speaks to a bigger problem with the development system and the pathway to the first team, because time and again, you hear managers, Barry was kind of had the thesaurus out, trying not to sound like Philip Clement, talking about the players not being good enough or not having positional sense off the ball when they come in. But it's a similar message that I've now heard from a few managers. So, I'd like to see them come in. Bailey Rice has looked fine, but I'm more excited. If you're asking what I'm more excited about, it's like getting the result and seeing if Cyril can get a couple of goals. If Bailey Rice and Finlay Curtis get on, nice, but I don't think that's going to be defining for the future.
I brought this comment up by Curry because I addressed it yesterday, or I mentioned something about it yesterday. Once the season was gone, that for me was when Barry should have been thinking not about his future, but about the future of some of the players at the club, and been playing some of these younger ones like you mentioned. What good is it to put them on for 45 minutes a day? When the season was definitely gone, I'm thinking that's the moment in time. But I think Barry, again, as Curry was saying here, I don't think he's under the illusion anymore he's getting it, but I think for a long period of time, he did let it get to his head that I've got a chance of this. So he was more worried about the results. And of course, results still matter. I think Cammy said on here a few weeks ago, results don't matter, but they do. But I think a lot of the fans would have given him a bit of leeway if he'd started playing, a good, given a lot of time to the youngsters for the last 5 or so games. Maybe not the whole fun, but he just felt that he was wanting to win these games for him rather than thinking about us next season.
I think there's an element of that, and I think it's possible he's been getting a holding message from the incoming owners, because that's what you would do. And until you've got someone tied down, why would you turn around and tell Barry, if you're his boss, why would you turn around and go, no, you're no chance? Mm-hmm. You would tell him that you're speaking to other sort of candidates, and know that he's, he's there and you want him to do a job. What I would say in Barry's defence is a couple of things, and I wasn't screaming for Barry to get put in post, but I think he's conducted himself well. One is if you put an obsessive serial winner like Barry in place, surprise, surprise, he's going to look at his record and want to leave Rangers with as good a record and as winning a record as possible. And also to that, where I feel a bit of sympathy for him, it's all very well saying let's put in the young players and blood them, etc. This bunch of players, the senior pros and the kind of the guys in the periphery, put him in a position where he had the record non-winning streak and the record losing streak at Ibrox. And it's only 2 games ago that we actually got that shifted. So It's all very well saying the last 5 games. Can you imagine? I mean, we were already looking at that non-winning streak going, that's not good. And if he's throwing in youth team players and we weren't getting results, I'm not sure people would have been that understanding if it had gone to, 7, 8, 9 games. So I think the last cut, let's say it's only 2 games ago that we actually got that shifted. You could see, having got that shifted, maybe he could have put more youth team players in, but I think he probably wanted to keep the momentum going. And he probably is looking at his own record. He's been brought in. He's got professional pride. It's all very well us saying, look to the future. He's maybe thinking the same thing. What good is it going to do to Finlay Curtis, giving him 45 minutes here, 45 minutes here? I need to get wins. And that, I don't think, was Barry's. Well, he's the manager, but I think this group of players have shown they're inconsistent. So I think 2 games ago, all he's worried about is getting that monkey off his back. And he's done it. And I'm not sure. I mean, Barry, I think Barry would love the job. I'm not sure Barry really believes he's getting it. I mean, I don't think the last couple of games he's thought he's getting it. But I think he has thought, I want to finish a professional job. I want as many wins, and I think that's been his focus. And it's that thing. It's Barry Ferguson. He's wanting to win, and he wasn't at Ibrox. So I have no major issues. And I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think 2 or 3 appearances at the end of a sort of a dwindling season is going to be the making of Bailey Rice or Finlay Curtis.
Well, Billy, we've got about 40 minutes to kick off. What's your predictions? I don't really need score predictions, but what do you think how do you think the game's going to go?
I'm hoping for a high scoring game with us coming out on top by a goal or two, like a 3-2 or something like that. That's the hope, because the alternative is like a dull end of season. You're sitting
first half at Aberdeen last week.
I'm hoping for a high scoring game with us coming out on top and it would be very like this team, because they're a nice bunch of lads. They'd want to get Cyril that award, so come on, we'll get him a couple of goals, and we actually end up winning on that basis. But so I'll go for that high scoring win for Rangers.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for watching this pre-match pod. Hope, obviously, all goes well and what Billy says comes to fruition, and we get an exciting match, at least for the last game of the season. And we can look forward to exciting times over the summer with hopefully some new signings, some exciting signings, and a new ownership structure in place as well, and of course a new manager and backroom staff. So thank you everyone for watching. I will just say that please head over to offtothematchigo.co.uk, because you get a 10% discount if you use the code Journal10 and over there as well on the memorabilia. So go and have a look around. If there's anything you like, use the code Journal10 to get 10% off. So let's go and enjoy the game and have a great afternoon. Thanks for watching, everyone.